Professor Pat Utomi, a renowned economist, has claimed that the nation is presently a failure, made worse by the lack of alternative thinking, worsened by a total capture of the legislature and the judiciary, as he described the present National Assembly as the worst thing that happened to the country. He argued that the National Assembly, which should be the platform for robust debates to turn around the nation's fortunes, has been captured. Now joining me on the program at this time is Professor Pat Utomi, is the Professor of Political Economy and Management expert. Thank you for your time, sir.
To be able to join you.
All right, sir. In a recent interview, you actually did say that at the moment the country is, just to mix it a bit, colossal failure as a result of what you described as, in a way, state capture, loosely. Would you like to please shed more light on that?
Well, thank you. You know, the concept of state capture is one that I have been speaking to for a good number of years. About 6 years ago, I actually wrote a book that had state capture in the title. Back in those days, I served on the boards of some South African companies, and South Africans were really stressed out by the fact of the state capture under Zuma, and that led to the Zondo Commission. The state capture really is a term that came out of, I guess, World Bank work about how the domination of the state for the purpose other than advancing the goods of the people with private interests being advanced became a phenomenon that got more and more attention. But we can see from the Nigerian experience since I wrote the book, Why Not, that the phenomenon has gotten so much worse. I mean, if you look at what the legislature is supposed to represent, look at some decisions that have been made, like the Inspector General of Police. There must be constitutional reasons why everybody retires at a certain age. And then within a few hours, not even with any serious conversation, we get the tenure of an IG extended for the life of an administration. You look at most serious issues afflicting Nigeria's economy. The decisions were without literal debate. And the whole idea of democracy is about rational public conversation. I mean, if there is a legacy that Jürgen Habermas has left us, is that understanding of the nature of the marketplace of ideas, defining the public sphere and making for progress. Now, last week, of course, as you all know, the Nobel Committee awarded the Economics Prize to James Robinson and his colleagues. And Robinson was up on television being interviewed about, why countries prosper and why some fail. Of course, he and Asamoah had written the book, Why Nations Fail, back in 2016. And part of the point that he makes is that economic growth is an intensely political process. What is useful about a political process? The rational conversation about options and the realities, adapting and adjusting. All of those things are not taking place when you have a legislature that really does not debate.
I mean, talking about the legislature, how would you describe the current legislature that we have in the country, and also the judiciary? We know that yesterday, just recently, the president actually did do a major review as regards the remuneration of judicial officers. Yesterday was the ground breaking for the construction of quarters for judges. So under this administration so far, how would you describe the legislature and also the judiciary? Are they performing up to task?
Don't take my word for it. Listen to what senior lawyers themselves are saying. Very few people think that the judiciary can be taken seriously anymore. Look at the mess that they have made of the political process. Look at the River State, what is going on. Just look around at election outcomes. You will know that the people don't take the judiciary serious anymore. So legislative, judicial capture have made traditional state capture even more worrying in the circumstance that we are in. Our institutions are in a very serious state and fundamental, very fundamental to whether you prosper or not, the state of your institutions. So we're experiencing a collapse of culture, institutions in recession, and that's just if you will, a template for failure. So something needs to be done to retrieve the legislature and make it a place where you discuss rationally in the interest of the common good of the people. The judiciary, look, one of the points that I try to make in the conversations that flowed from last week's award of the Nobel is the fact that capitalism and its regeneration comes significantly from the role that the judiciary plays. There are many people who will not invest in Nigeria because of the Nigerian judiciary, because they're not sure that they will get a fair outcome if there was a dispute. I've dealt with this for more than 30 years every time, and now it gets worse and worse and worse.
But do you think the new Chief Justice, Justice Kekereekun, can sort of bring about that confidence or restore the confidence that has been lost in the judicial sector?
I have no basis for speculating. I don't know anything that will say this way or that way. I'm just telling you what has been the lot of the country in most recent history. It has been really, really bad.
Let's bring it to the National Assembly. I mean, you said that it should be a platform for robust progressive debates. So far, I mean, under the leadership of Senator Godswill Akpabio, at the Senate and of course at the House too, we have its leadership there. We've seen some laws or some proposals being passed. Does it look like they are progressive in the interest of Nigerians? Are we going somewhere?
No, you're going absolutely nowhere from what I have said. I can tell you that without blinking an eyelid.
Why is that?
Because there is a certain seriousness in the way the legislature carries on. Don't you watch the proceedings? I've watched it and I've given up on trying to keep watching. I mean, sometimes it's like that, just children playing games.
How about the policies of the president? And his constant appeal to Nigerians to be patient for it to yield fruits.
Well, that's precisely why I worry about the nature of the legislature, because it's the legislature that should take on the appeals and the policies and work through them. Look, we have a few major policies that went through at a very rapid rate that have created misery, significant levels of misery. How much were those issues interrogated? What were the options offered to those policy approaches. This is what I mean when I say the National Assembly is not a serious body, because that's where you should be, in that thorough conversation, rational and not just, game playing. But you don't see it. You wonder, do we realize that we have a country on the line from what is going on? Unfortunately, this is the opinion that I have.
Let's pick one issue that has, of course, been at the front burner of conversation recently, and that is what the feelers that Nigerians are getting that the FIRSC, that's the Federal Road Safety Corps, a ruling or a bill has been passed. It has, passed a second reading that they should bear arms in the discharge of their duties. I would like your response on that. Should the Federal Road Safety Corps bear arms?
That they should do what?
Bear arms, carry arms.
Oh, bear arms. Look, everybody bears arms now in Nigeria. I mean, everything is about arms. Arms. We are militarized and yet we are insecure. I think what we need is a retooling of policing. I think we need a state policing function, local authority policing. It doesn't matter to me whether FRSC bear arms or not arms. Everybody already bears arms, but we are not secure. That's the important thing. Let's get security. If FRSC bears arms and that leads to being more secure, all well and good. But I'm not so sure that that's where we're going to get security from. I think it's all people trying to just, increase their power base in these intelligence games.
You seem to have lost absolute faith in maybe this administration or, will I use the word, maybe in Nigeria?
I don't know. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to reclaim our country. We need to focus on the people and not on politicians. The democracy has become a government of politicians for politicians by politicians, not a government of the people for the people by the people. Look at the misery out there and look how little attention is being paid to that misery in the legislature. What is it that makes the legislature when people are going through such misery and public officials spending money the way that they are spending and not showing sensitivity to the life of misery that people are trying to deal with? It's not a pleasant thing, I can tell you. It's not a pleasant thing. It's a bad time in our history, very, very bad time in our history.
All right, Professor Utomi, we need to go on a quick break. When we return, we will pick up. Do stay with us, sir. Many thanks for staying with us. This is still Politics HQ on News Central Television, and I still have my guest with me, Professor Pat Utomi. Before we go, I would just like your thoughts on what you consider a way forward, and in your words, a retooling of the system towards a promising tomorrow.
Well, I think that the Nigerian elite need to sit down, really sit down and say, look, our country is not working. We want it to work. We want it to work for everybody. How do we go about making that happen? Of course, it will involve constitutional reforms. It will involve understanding a certain national economic and growth strategy, in my view, in which we begin to focus on how we move to a principle of subsidiarity and try to grow the economy from factor endowments in the various subnational levels and generate competition between local governments in whose endowments we can most accelerate production to improve the quality of life of citizens. The poverty is unacceptable. No elite should feel happy. Look what has happened in the history of our world. The people that we were competing with 40, 50 years ago, look how the transformations took place, even in our own national history. We're talking about groundnut pyramids in the 60s. When did groundnuts get introduced to northern Nigeria? But within a 30-year period from about 1915 and the 50s, it became a dominant factor from literally zero. Why can't we repeat those things today? I mean, oil became the starting point. And then, unfortunately, I think politicians too focused on trying to take advantage of whatever rent is in oil, took themselves away from service to the people and focused on, self-love and, the kind of use of public resources that forget that there are so many people, a majority of our people, who are not taken care of by this system that they are abusing. So those kinds of conversations must be the beginning of a new direction for our country.
Professor Utomi, there's also the issue of human rights, quote and unquote, violation. We've seen cases where certain individuals come out to protest, and they are picked up. Some of them locked and charged for, the highest offense, treason. Many have even said that this current administration is a product of protests. I mean, the president was, a human rights activist himself at some point in his life. And right now, under his nose, all of this is happening. I'd like your reaction, sir.
Well, I was in the trenches many, many years myself. I protested as an undergraduate more than 50 years ago. I led protests through, I didn't realize until recently that it was a treasonable thing to express yourself. But now I'm finding that treason is being attributed to protests. I was even accused of being one of those planning a protest I didn't know was taking place. So it shows not strength, but weakness and a tendency towards fascism. And if you look at how fascist states have arisen, look at how Hitler rose in the Weimar Republic, you will see patterns that we must do everything to stop. If we don't stop, our country could be in very serious trouble. I mean, under the military, even the most draconian of the military, Abacha, we stood up for certain rights, and the military backed off. To find that in a civilian government, that this is not the case, it's quite disappointing, and I don't know why that is the case. but we must, as a people, collectively say, not acceptable. That's the only way we can redeem our country.
Thank you so much for your time on the program, Professor Pat Utomi, Professor of Political Economy and Management Expert. Once again, thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
All right.